From drag bars to coffee shops, the search for the authentic queer experience in Tallahassee is a constantly evolving and diverse journey.
I'm Sam, and I identify as a lesbian. In the South, it's a lot harder to be comfortable, being gay, holding hands in public. The predatory lesbian trope, quite honestly, I have a lot of problems being friends with straight girls because I constantly live with this fear that they think I'm going to hit on them or that I see them in some, predatory way, like they're throwing me prey on. My hometown was a lot more conservative than FSU. I grew up in a public household. A lot of people I knew was not accepted. I went to a Catholic church. Being gay was not an option.
Take this dress off. Cause I'm a lady. I'm a lady, yes I am a lady.
My name is Michael Hazan. I'm a junior majoring in creative writing with a minor in communications. I identify as gay. I think it's had a lot of trials, if that makes sense. I think being a queer person at Florida State can be a little bit more difficult than just being straight, just because no matter where you go, you're always going to be perceived differently. For instance, just what I'm wearing now, if I were to walk into a frat house or a mall or Publix or something, I know people would stare. I think it's really different depending on who you ask. If you ask a quote unquote straight ally, they'll be like, this school is so accepting, but at the same time I disagree because there are still so many times where people will say this has happened to me as a queer person, or I felt this way being in a space with XYZ people, and no matter any time a queer person tries to bring something up, the school doesn't necessarily take it as seriously. And also on top of that, a lot of queer student leaders on campus just aren't looked at as strongly as a counterpart who's heterosexual or cis. And what I mean by that is for instance, I have a friend who didn't get a position because they viewed him as too sassy or too outspoken or too loud or too confrontational. But the thing is he's just a man who's black and gay. There was a time I was at a party last semester and I bumped into this guy and he just called me the F slur, and I didn't know how to react, and I was just really upset. And then there was a time my freshman year where I was at Potbelly's and someone came up to me and he called me the F slur, but then he also complimented my outfit, so it kind of was a backhanded compliment. And it's just weird because a lot of straight men would throw that word around. The idea that all gay men are flamboyant or sassy, because I'm definitely both, but also at the same time it's really weird when people just assume that when my personality trait is that I'm sassy, but in reality it's just that I have an attitude. Or people will just call me a queen or be hey queen, or you're such a queen. And one, that makes no sense, and two, I'll ask people to stop calling me that, but it's just ingrained in the culture that a lot of straight women especially just kind of assume that they have the right to say those things, and it's kind of just really weird. And I just wish people would stop assuming that just because someone identifies as queer and they have a little bit of an attitude, or because they're kind of funny, that it doesn't necessarily mean that they're sassy or anything like that, and it shouldn't just be the immediate label that's slapped onto them.
At the end of our project, we found the true LGBTQ experience only revealed itself once within the community's safe space.